Hello. Before the main video gets started, I wanted to unfortunately apologize for the audio quality in this video. There's occasional little blips. You'll notice when they occur. I thought I had solved this problem. I guess I hadn't. I'm going to continue attempting to fix it, very much hoping it will be addressed by the time of tomorrow's recording, but today I simply don't have time to re-record the whole video, so I'm going to put it out as is. At some point in the video, I say to let me know if you hear any audio issues in this recording. You don't need to let me know. I'm well aware, I'm painfully aware of the issues. I hope they don't stop you from enjoying the Daily Solve. So we'll get going with the main video, and I will do my best to fix this going forward. Thanks. Take care. Hello, it is Saturday, November 27th, 2021. I'm Chris Remo, and welcome back to my New York Times Crossword Daily Solve. It's a Saturday puzzle, so we might be in for a tricky one today. I hope it's not overwhelmingly difficult, because as soon as I'm done with this, and as soon as I've published the video, I'm going to start putting together my Thanksgiving dinner, which is happening today on Saturday, because we're preparing it for our friends here in London on a slightly more friendly day than what would here be essentially a random Thursday. So anyway, I'm looking very much forward to that. But I'm also looking forward to doing the crossword. So of course, we'll get that solved before I start solving a turkey, I guess. And before I do any of that, we have a couple comments from yesterday's puzzle that one that explained something and one that I thought was a nice observation about a clue. So Kathy Swope explains that Amy Semple McPherson, the evangelist with whom I was unfamiliar in yesterday's puzzle, was a 1920s and 30s evangelist noted for being one of the first female and divorced evangelists. She was also groundbreaking for her use of theatrics and of radio, a precursor to later televangelists. And Kolarn follows up with a comment that exactly echoes my own reaction when I read Kathy's comment. Kolarn says, I wonder if that evangelist character in the recent HBO Perry Mason series was based on McPherson. I had the same thought. She must have been, because it sounds like a very similar sort of character. And Halcyon comments, I liked the precise tense between gone down flowing to sunk, and how sank would probably have been clued as went down. I thought that was a very perceptive observation and an example of how important it is to pay very close attention to particularly how clues are phrased. All right, so quickly, before we get into the puzzle, I will remind you of a new Twitter account, @TheDailySolve, the Patreon campaign at patreon.com/DailySolve, and yesterday, I put up after the regular video, I put up the Friday, the weekly mini puzzle speed solve. So that's a week of New York Times mini crosswords solved very quickly with some recaps after each one. And the most recent week of those went up yesterday. Still have to find another bit of bonus solving to replace the 2 failed recordings I've tried this week. It's very frustrating. But I think I've sorted out my equipment issues. It doesn't seem like anything has gone wrong in the last few days. If you do hear any audio artifacts, I won't be happy to see your comment, but I'll be more happy than I would if the audio artifacts were there and nobody told me. So if you hear anything that sounds particularly bad, maybe drop a timestamp into a comment. That would be great. But I think I've solved it. So I'll try and find something to solve for the Patreon backers. Well, in addition to what I've already put up this week, I guess. Okay, let's get on to the puzzle. This is a Saturday crossword constructed by Trenton Charlson and edited, as always, by Will Shorts. It's a Saturday puzzle, so presumably a themeless puzzle, and as I said, a tough one. The most difficult crossword of the week is generally what we would expect on a Saturday. So let's get started. Okay. To act the cynic, maybe. Well, I don't know. My first thought is sneer. That's pretty speculative without any crosses, so let's look at the downs and see if we can confirm or deny that. Hot spots. Spa something. Saunas. Could be saunas. Channel owned by HBO. I don't know. Yeah, I just don't know. Prompting nostalgia, say. Thing is, I just don't know if sneer is correct or not. Schedule listings. Well, this could be ETDs or ETAs. It could be either of those. Estimated times of departure or estimated times of arrival. I suppose estimated times of departure is slightly more likely for a schedule, but it could be either, so I'm not going to fill it in. Who famously offered this speaking advice? Be sincere, be brief, be seated in brief. So this will be initials. And I'm not sure offhand. What about felt off? I don't know. I suppose schedule listings could also be estimates. Does that help? Felt off? I mean, amiss, but that would be felt amiss, not, don't know. I'm really not confident enough about any of this to put it in just yet, unfortunately. What about saunas? Can we confirm or deny that? Operative. So that would be a U. I mean, it could be an agent. It could be operative, meaning sort of an important or critical thing. Realizes would be an A with saunas. Realizes. Could be realizes to understand or see something. It could be realize as create something, to sort of realize a goal, to achieve a goal. Gets or sees. I don't really see how saunas ties in. Soiree, invitee. I don't know. A debutante. That doesn't seem right. So if this were, oh wait, sorry, this would be N. Oh, if it were saunas, it could be nets. You could realize gains. You could realize cash gains, for instance, net cash gains. So that would be A for saunas. Soiree, invitee. Someone invited to an evening get together. Oh, an ami, a friend in French, because soiree is a French word. So maybe that's it. Maybe this is saunas. Yeah, why not? Channel owned by HBO. Okay, what channel would fit in here? I don't know, something with MTV. I have no idea what channels HBO owns. Prompting nostalgia, say. Oh, antique, but no, that doesn't work. Let's keep looking around for now. I'm getting a little bit digging into a rabbit hole here, and I probably should move on. Where Jesse Owens ran college track, in brief. Not a clue. Kitchen extension. So with the question mark, that is indicating some kind of pun or wordplay, and I think it's probably wordplay in this case. My suspicion would be this is a suffix that can be appended to the word kitchen. So maybe could be something like KitchenAid, that's a brand, or kitchenette, referring to a small kitchen. I mean, each of those ends with an E for what it's worth. I wonder if that helps with rather inclined. Rather inclined. You sort of tend to do something, perhaps. Probably more likely that than rather inclined, meaning physically reclined. I don't know. Let's keep going. Big gun, you might say. Brilliant display. Small boat of East Asia. This is one of those ones I'm certain I know, but I can't bring it to mind. That's always infuriating when that happens. It's a very particular sensation in the mind. It really drives me nuts. All right, draft letters. Could be what? SSA, the Selective Service Administration, which is the organization that processes the draft in the United States, or administers it, I should say, administrates it. England's Middleton, younger sister of Kate. Is that Pippa? It's not SSA. If we put in Pippa, does that work? I pay very close attention to the bulk of the royal family. Big gun, you might say. Draft letters. Oh, could be draft beer. Could be an IPA, an India Pale Ale. So that could work. And self-playing instruments. Is a pianola a self-playing instrument? Is that what a pianola is? It's sort of like a player piano. let's see, more like mud. It could be oozier. It's sort of a slightly awkward word, but perhaps. Jazz great Stan could be Stan Getz. All right, I think I've finally found an area of this grid where we've found some purchase, some traction. And I feel as though that's something important, especially on Saturday puzzles, on trickier puzzles. Find an area, don't get too bogged down in an area where you're just spinning your wheels in the mud, in the oozier mud. Find an area where you can at least be pretty confident about a couple of crosses, a couple of clues meeting each other, so that you have more confidence to build on those. Anyway, gardening practice that minimizes the need for water. Well, it's got to have an ing at the end based on this fill so far. So what about this? The world's most visited city. 20 plus million travelers annually. Interesting. The world's most visited city. I would have guessed Paris or London or something. Let's see. It's going to be interesting what it is. Is it an Asian city, maybe? Why am I not seeing what city this is? There aren't very many options for what the world's most visited city could be. Are there? Let's see. Something outstanding in its field. So not something outstanding in its field, but something outstanding in its field. I mean, a silo or a scarecrow or something, perhaps. Something literally standing in a field. All right. Low member of a marine ecosystem. A bottom feeder, kelp or something. The Book of Numbers. Oh, the Yellow Pages, I bet. It's sort of a little pun, but it doesn't have the pun indicator, the question mark, because it's not. I mean, I think because it is actually straightforward enough that it is literally true. You don't actually need to indicate this is a pun because it is so straightforward. It's a bit of a gray, it's a bit of a fuzzy line between what is a pun and what's not a pun, but I think this doesn't need the indicator to make sense. A tool with an eye, what, an awl, perhaps? You sort of bore a hole with an awl. Does that mean the awl itself is considered to have an eye? I'm not really sure. Deals. Well, it could end with an S because of deals with an S. Something outstanding in its field. Well, my progress has slowed a bit after that nice burst of progress. One might determine fertility. So determine, that could mean determine fertility in the sense of determining whether the person or animal is fertile, or it could mean something that determines, well, it could be something that identifies, I should say, whether the person, say, is fertile, or it could be some sort of factor that causes fertility. And I don't know which it means. Determine could be used in either sense. Oh, Bangkok. It must be Bangkok, the world's most visited city. Okay, there we go. I just wanted it to look like something I could identify, and suddenly I just sort of saw it. All right, great. That is a relief to have that in the grid. And then something that helps a lot. Something outstanding in its field is a stalk. For instance, a stalk of corn, for instance. Okay, great. And then what do we have here? Low member, plankton. Something plankton. Sea plankton, maybe? Are there other kinds of plankton? I'm sure someone will tell me if there are. Deals. Copes. So not deals as in cards or deals as in business agreements, but deals as in copes with a problem. And gardening practice that minimizes the need for water. I suspect this will be a portmanteau of landscaping, but I don't know what it is. Not enough of a gardener. Boy, I'm getting this drift on my camera again. I don't know why that is. Okay. Prompting nostalgia, say. Ends with a Y. That's not very surprising. Oh, here's a two-part clue I don't think we've seen. 5 down, e.g. in brief. Who famously offered this speaking advice? Be sincere, be brief, be seated. So this will be, I suppose, a nickname for this person identified by 3 initials. It welcomes change. A coin slot, perhaps, would literally welcome change. Oh, people credited with discovering mechanoluminescence using quartz crystals to generate light. The Ute, maybe? Indigenous tribe? Seems pretty plausible. I'm sort of guessing there, but it seems like a reasonable answer. Let's see, rescue. Rescue could be something out, pull out, maybe? Doesn't seem like a completely obviously correct answer. What is this? A member of a marine ecosystem. Zooplankton? Is that something? Just there aren't very many words with O, double O that would make sense here. Oh, Prez. Oh, sorry. I didn't take it fully into account the EG here. I was looking for, I'm sorry, I really read this poorly and communicated it poorly in turn. So 26 down is 5 down EG in brief, and 5 down is going to be a person represented by letters. And I sort of figured it was going to be a president. I thought maybe Dwight D. Eisenhower, maybe, or could be, I don't know, Teddy Roosevelt or something. But I thought this will be a nickname for that person. And so the reason I thought Eisenhower, maybe it'll be Ike, but that doesn't fit in 4 letters. Anyway, it isn't a nickname of that particular person. It's 5 down EG, 5 down for example. So this person is an example of something, in this case, an example of a president. So I parsed that clue quite poorly. I should have been more attentive. Okay, so this will be a president. President with 3 letters. I mean, our 3-letter presidents, there have been quite a number of them. JFK for John F. Kennedy, LBJ for Lyndon Baines Johnson, DDE, Dwight D. Eisenhower. I mean, there are quite a few, and I don't know who said this, but yeah, I just don't know. HST for Harry S. Truman. I could see Truman saying this. Anyway, let's keep looking around. I keep getting tempted into getting stuck again in that oozy quagmire up in the northwest corner of the grid, but I'm not going to. So what is this? Small boat of East Asia. Boy, I thought I knew this, but maybe I don't, because this doesn't look... Maybe pull out is wrong. Big gun, you might say. Oh, a bicep? Could this be using our what we know from recent discussions, sort of an inaccurate singular of biceps, which is biceps. Biceps is itself, in fact, the singular, and bicepses, the plural, or bicipites, which is much more arcane. Anyway, rescue, I suppose, is bail out. That sounds much better. So much better than pull out. All right. So does that help adhere with gardening practice that minimizes the need for water? Yeah, I don't know. Periscaping, I don't know enough about gardening to know. Children by HBO, I don't know that either. Prompting nostalgia, I also don't know. All right. Let's get out. Again, this area is distracting me. It'll be helpful if I can get this long 16 across at some point. But for now, let's move on. Anjou alternative. So this is a pair. Bosch or Bosque pair would be an alternative to that. And where Jesse Owens ran college track. Okay, well, an easy thing to do to create the name of a university is to add U for university. And I suspect that's the case. Oklahoma State University or Oregon State University, I don't know. I apologize for not knowing this, but I don't. So I'm going to guess that's a U, and I suspect that's right. A variety offering. Could be a review, a stage show with a variety of performances, types of performance. This is no laughing matter. It could be serious. Boy, this really demonstrates how silly it was to keep getting tied up over in this northwest corner, because some of these over here are much more straightforward. Embarks on a newly righteous path. Well, it could start with re. If it's newly righteous, you could re something. You could, I don't know, re-steer, something like that. But let's keep looking around. Sri Lanka to Singapore direction. Well, it'll be east by southeast, I guess. I think that's the only option, in fact. Since if this is E, which, knowing now this is a directional clue, I think is even more likely that this is E, because what else could it be? It's not going to be an N or an S or a W after an R, so this looks right. And blank curiam by the court, I would think per curiam, per by. And reconstruction, e.g., in the United States, Reconstruction is the name of an era following the Civil War, era in which there were actually quite impressive gains made by Black Americans, many Black Americans elected to Congress, this sort of thing, and then those gains were dramatically wiped out in a huge historical tragedy. All right. Man's name that's an African country if you change the last letter. Oh, this is another one of those that's going to be so obvious when we see it, but I can't make the leap without any crosses, with very few crosses. All right. Embarks on a newly righteous path would be repents. And he wrote, appear weak when you are strong and strong when you are weak. Well, speaking of what sounds like people who have said things, this sounds like Sun Tzu of the Art of War fame. So does that give us anything here? A brilliant display could be a blaze, brilliant pyre, for instance. Okay, what else do we have? Oh, Nigel. You changed the last name to make Niger. Okay. Niger. All right. Maneuver in dancing or football. A toe tap? Don't know what that is in football, but sounds like it might be something. Spot early on. Oh, spot meaning a common name for a dog. Early on would be a puppy. And here we have a kitchen extension. So right, it was one of my guesses. It is kitchenette, the one that is not a proper noun, not a brand name. And here we have rather inclined. Well, what do you know? It indeed was the physical inclination, not the sort of temperamental inclination. So steep for an incline, a steep incline. And then that, okay, an operative is indeed an agent, in this case, a secret agent or an undercover agent. Great. And here we have who famously offered this speaking advice. Could be FDR, Franklin D. Roosevelt. Let's try that. FDR. Sounds like that. And I said Truman, and we would have been right in the same era there. So, felt off. Ailed. There we go. Made that harder than I need to. Failed off. Felt off. Felt ill. Was ill. Ailed. All right. Schedule listings was not ETAs or ETDs. In fact, neither of those. So what is it? Schedule. Oh, it could be fees. It could be a fee schedule as opposed to a schedule of timings. And then to act the cynic, maybe, to scoff. So similar to here, but probably, I think, a better match to scoff. To scoff at something is to dismiss it in a haughty sort of way. Oh, prompting nostalgia says old-timey. There we go. Another one I was making probably more difficult than I needed to. And a channel owned by HBO. Oh, Cinemax. I recognize that now that I see it. Oh, and Sampan. Okay, that wasn't the word I had in mind, but I do recognize it now that I see it. And Xeriscaping must be, but this would be a pretty tough clue, I would think, if you didn't know Cinemax. I don't know how much worldwide penetration Cinemax has, but that seems like a tough cross. Xeriscaping and Cinemax, wow. Although, interesting, we do have a little XYZ here. So Saturday is an unthemed puzzle, but I wonder if Trenton Charlson has sort of snuck in a sort of sub-theme, not quite a theme, but a little flourish with an X, Y, and Z. I guess you could, if you happen to notice that. I mean, the thing is, if you didn't have the S and there were just a Y and Z here, you might notice that, but that would be pretty light. So I don't know that it would necessarily help you engineer that cross. Is there anything else like that on the puzzle? I don't really see anything else so far that echoes this or mirrors it in any way. Yeah, okay. All right, well, we've cleaned out, we've cleaned out about the top 2/3 or so, 3/5 maybe, of the puzzle. So let's keep looking. A symbol on an ancient sarcophagus. It could be an asp, perhaps, or a cat, maybe, where lost could be found. And lost is, in quotation marks, capitalized, so probably referring to the television program. So what does that mean? Where it could be found? On DD or something? I don't really, in 5 letters, I don't really know what that means. Symbol on an ancient sarcophagus, right? Let's keep going. Savage. Not sure. Head of Hogwarts. Anne H. I hope it's that, because I've not actually read any of the Harry Potter books or seen the films, so I don't know if this is actually. I recognize Hogwarts as being Harry Potter related, but I don't know what the answer to this would be. But because it has the question mark, it might not even need to have. There might not need to be any Harry Potter knowledge in order to figure this out, because often that question mark, the pun indicator, will mean you're just doing a bit of wordplay. So it could be an H. I wonder if it is. Does that work? No, it doesn't. Sorry. Because didn't just tee is probably roared. Didn't just tee, didn't just let out a little titter, but you roared with laughter. So what head of Hogwarts? What could that? Oh, I know what it is. It is not Harry Potter related. All you have to know is that Harry Potter is British, or rather, the books are British, and the loo is a toilet in British English. So there we go. And because of that question mark, that's our pun indicator. It lets us know that we're not meant to read this with the surface reading. The surface reading would mean head of Hogwarts, somebody in charge of Hogwarts, presumably, but there's a pun, so we have to read this in a different way. Okay. One might determine fertility. Oh, soil something? So fertility of land. Soil what? I don't know. Test? Does that help here? It started smoking again in 2021. Oh, Mount Etna? Did Mount Etna start smoking again in 2021? Of all of the things that have been happening in the past 2 years, it was also all volcanoes are starting up. All right. Maybe it is soil test. And a newborn, a neonate, as in neonatal, obviously where that comes from. Put up could be anteed, as in put up money, anteed, put up a bet in a poker game, for instance. Vivacity could be elan, gusto, zest for life, that sort of thing. A collage application. So you might look at this and read it in a haphazard way, or read it not very carefully, as I didn't read this 5-down e.g. and brief very carefully. And you might think this says college application, as in university, but no, it's collage application. So something you apply to a collage. Paste, I would think, to paste the elements of the collage together. And a book reviewer. And again, we have a question mark here. So we shouldn't read this with the surface reading, which would mean someone who reviews books, novels, that sort of thing. But rather, it's a pun. And I think in this case, it means referring to books in the financial sense, your accounting books. So the person who reviews that is a CPA, a certified public accountant, or a chartered public accountant, depending on your country of residence. And so that's what it is, I think. And you can come out now. I think that means the coast is clear. Or rather, I think the coast is clear means you can come out now. So if something is unchanged, it is as is. One in a one-on-one session could be a tutor or a tutee, the person who's doing the tutoring or the person who's being tutored. I don't know which is, so I'm going to leave that for now. And here we have today procedure. So as with kitchen extension, we have something that precedes the word today. And it doesn't have the question mark, because in this case, kitchen extension, that in itself is a very established concept, a kitchen extension, a physical extension of your kitchen. So the question mark is here to point us away from that surface level reading. Here, today procedure, I guess you could say that is referring to yesterday, to the concept of yesterday, but that today procedure isn't really an established concept in its own right. No one talks about a today procedure. It's just not really a thing. So that gives us the hint that something a little bit less direct is going on without the need for the question mark. And in this case, USA, to create the name of the newspaper, USA Today. All right, let's keep looking around. I don't think we've seen these acrosses. Oh, no, we have. Sorry. Oh, no, we've seen all of this. What am I doing? Those tending to the fallen warriors called Einherjar in myth. The Valkyries, perhaps? I don't know. I'm just trying. It looks like sort of Northern European myth. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of something that could fit in here, and that would, but I don't. Oh, actually, maybe it is. Because I thought that, and then I said, well, that doesn't really work. TV don't go together, but they do when the clue is about a television program. So actually, maybe it is Valkyries. I am seeing Wagner's Valkyrie tomorrow, seeing that performed, the opera. Funny coincidence. Anyway, so one in a one-on-one session is a 2T, and Castor, or maybe it's not Valkyrie. Oh no, Valkyrie, sorry, I misspelled it. So Castor Oil, I guess, old cartoon character. I don't think I know this cartoon character, but my guess would be maybe related to Olive Oil of Popeye fame. Seems not unlikely. And Lennox of R&B. I'm actually not sure about this either. Ari, maybe. Vice Principal. Sin, I suppose. Vice and sin. Principal, I mean, the principal concerned with vice being sin, I suppose. Yeah. Does that work with here? Dangerous place for a leak. Yeah, okay. Gas line. So indeed, Ari Lennox and Vice Principal of Sin, and hits hard socks, I suppose. Sock somebody in the jaw, for instance. All right. Savage. Why am I not seeing what Savage is? Don't know. And where Lost could be found. So this will be the name of a television network. I don't... how am I supposed to know on what channel Lost aired? That was ages ago. Well, look at this. I'm sort of running out of steam at the very end. Running out of gas. Maybe there's a leak in my gas line. All right. Bit of hunting gear for short. Oh, camouflage. There we go. All right. And then that helps a bit with Lost. Again, this requires, as with, I think, possibly Cinemax, this requires a bit of U.S. cultural context, which, so what could this be? ABC, the American Broadcasting Corporation, ABC TV, I guess. And Savage, a Savage could be a beast. When I first saw this, I thought, well, this could be Savage a noun or Savage a verb. But for some reason, when I came back to it, I ended up being sort of fixated on Savage as not a verb, an adjective, sorry, not a verb at all. But anyway, Savage as a noun or Savage as an adjective. And when I came back to it, I sort of stopped trying to think of synonyms for Savage as a noun and was focusing on the adjective and not getting anywhere. And that's because it is a noun, a beast, a savage, a beast. Always remember to think of the different parts of speech a word could be. Oh, foe of Popeye. So we had, I don't know Castor Oil, the character, but my guess is, because of the spelling of oil, my guess is that this character is related to Olive Oil, Popeye's girlfriend, I guess she is. And a foe of Popeye must be the sea hag. I don't know that character either, but I can't think what else it would be. That looks pretty plausible. And so indeed, the symbol on an ancient sarcophagus must be the asp. And, I never saw this. Emmy-winning actress Pamela Adlon. I actually could have answered that had I seen it, but I didn't. And I got it with a cross. So let's try to validate this puzzle. There it is. All right. I really enjoyed this. I am mystified. I am sort of vaguely obsessed with this XYZ string here. I don't see any possible way that couldn't have been intentional. I am certain it is intentional because these are some strange words. Well, Yellow Pages, not so much. Xeriscaping is the unusual word, and it crosses with Cinemax. I mean, this feels incredibly intentional, and I don't really know to what end. Does that tie into anything about the alphabet, or are there other XYZs? Not really. I mean, there's Uzier and Blaze. Is there anything else like that? And why isn't an unusual enough letter to really observe that there are other Ys? I mean, that just sort of happens. Strange. I'm mystified. Fascinated. Huh. Well, I don't know. Anyway, I think this puzzle was a useful reminder for me, certainly, maybe for you, but certainly for myself, not to get caught up in areas of the grid where because the thing is, it's not as though this area up here, it's not as though I wasn't having any ideas that were bearing fruit at all. I eventually did confirm Saunas, or at least get fairly certain that Saunas was correct. So because I had a little bit going on, I really kept drilling down to this corner, but for whatever reason, I just wasn't making much progress. And it was so much more helpful and satisfying down here. I don't remember in what order I started getting these, but at some point I think maybe Pippa and then IPA and Pianolas was a bit of a guess, but that bore fruit. Got Getz in Bangkok and everything. So that started coming together, and that really ended up being much more helpful. And even with these long answers, xeriscaping took me a while, but gardening practice meant once scaping started to come in, that part seemed feasible, even if I didn't know what the prefix was going to be. Similarly, with the book of numbers, pages came in before I could get the rest of it. And with low member of marine ecosystem, I got plankton before I necessarily knew what the prefix was going to be. So this area, even though I wasn't necessarily getting full crosses in every case, getting some of that traction enabled me to get a bunch of letters in the grid, and it was much more useful than really trying to brute force my way through a part of the grid that wasn't progressing as quickly. And just a reminder, especially on these Saturday puzzles, I often forget that when I'm solving for the video because I'm so conscious of I suppose the sort of your presence in the form of an audience, and I don't necessarily when I'm solving on my own, which is less frequent these days because I do these video solves, I'll just jump all over the grid almost. I mean, in a way that I think I'm always worried won't play well on video, but I should find a middle ground there. And it's a good reminder for you if you're trying to improve your solving to just find places in the grid you can get letters in. Really, that's all that matters, is getting the letters in one way or another, because crosses make it so much easier. Anyway, I really enjoyed that puzzle. I did enjoy the amount of resistance that was put up against my solving attempts, because I didn't ever find it to be a complete hard block. But this would be a tough one, I would say. I mean, it's fairly tough as far as New York Times crosswords go, honestly. It wasn't easy, but we got there. And I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed the puzzle if you gave it a shot yourself, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please do subscribe to the channel. I noticed the other day that I'm coming up on 4,000 subscribers. I'm around, I don't know, 50 something away, 50 odd people away from that. So I'm mentioning it this week to try and encourage people to click that little button and subscribe to the channel. There's nothing particularly special about 4,000 subscribers, and I'm aware it's not an impressive number on the global scale of YouTube subscription counts, but it's a nice round number. It's another milestone, and I would like to hit it for some reason. So why not subscribe and help that happen? And if you think you might know someone who would like this sort of thing, do pass it along, either directly to someone you know or in a broader recommendation on your online platform of choice. And if you particularly enjoy this series and you would like to help contribute to its ongoing sustainability, consider tossing me a few pounds or the equivalent in your local currency via my Patreon campaign at patreon.com/dailysolve. And there's a link to that, of course, in the description field underneath each video. That is it's essentially a way to make a small monthly contribution and help support, in this case, this series, and then also get things in return, like all of the weekly bonus solves that go up on the feed for Patreon subscribers. And also, if you contribute at a certain level, you will get a mug with a "Let's Check the Crosses" slogan emblazoned upon it. I could have used that yesterday. I think I'm about, I don't know, maybe a week or two away from getting my mug. I'm very excited about it. Had to back my own Patreon campaign in order to achieve that, but it was hopefully worth it. I've heard it's a good quality mug. And today, I would like to thank a few people who have contributed at that level in the Patreon campaign out of appreciation for their recurring support. And today, those I would like to thank are Dan Stoko, Jeff and Sinead Widlocki, and Cass Wilkinson Saldana. So thank you, Dan. Thank you, Jeff and Sinead, and thank you, Cass. And thank you, as always, to the inestimable Hood Monster. Thanks to all 5 of you, I suppose, and thank you to everybody else who's backed the Patreon campaign, and thanks, of course, to you for watching this video, all to the end of this almost 40-minute Saturday video. I'll be back tomorrow for what may well be a longer video than that, because it's a Sunday puzzle. Probably not as tricky in straightforward challenge terms as what we just solved, the Saturday puzzle, but longer. And I always find that ends up being its challenge in its own right. So we will do that tomorrow. a languid Sunday solve. And I hope you stop by for it. Until that point, please do have an excellent remainder of your Saturday. I am off to prep a turkey. Take care.